third thing that is giving economists some sort of confidence going forward is that you're beginning to see some movement on the credit side of things. As many of you know, I'm the economist for the National Association for Credit Management as well as FMA, and credit managers, you all have them, and they're very interesting people. These are the green eye shade crowd in your business who are constantly looking at the salespeople and muttering, "It's not a sale until we're paid." So they tend to get kind of ugly about these things. And when you track credit manager activity, which we do, through an index called the Credit Managers Index, you're familiar with the Purchasing Managers Index. Ask purchasing managers what it is they're doing, what they're buying. You get a good snapshot month to month of what's happening in the economy. And by the way, the credit managers, or the purchasing managers rather, have one of the coolest sub-indexes on the planet. I absolutely love this thing. This is one of the two most accurate assessments of employment out there. It's the toilet paper index. If you compute how much toilet paper a company is purchasing, more toilet paper, more people. Less toilet paper, less people. We use toilet paper for the purpose it was intended, and so you can track it. And apparently we're regular at work. So it is quite the only one that comes close and actually is more accurate is sometimes referred to as the Vixen Index or the Hot Waitress Index. The hotter the waitress at Starbucks, the higher the unemployment rate. When the unemployment rate is low, the young ladies find cushy jobs in corporations that want, apparently, arm candy. When unemployment is high, they have to work at Starbucks. This has tracked accurately for 17 years. Absolutely perfectly accurately for 17 years. And it has turned legions of men into economic analysts. It's like, I am not ogling that woman. I'm conducting careful economic research. And I will be submitting it later to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, I promise. So it is kind of astonishing what you get from these indexes. Now the CMI, which is organized the same way the PMI is, tracks things like disputes and dollars exposed and accounts out for collection and numbers of credit apps and all kinds of things that kind of inform the world of the credit manager. Over the last 6 months, we've seen two really interesting trends. One, companies are catching up with their credit, and just in casual conversation on the floor yesterday, I was learning that it's happening with a lot of the companies here. When times are tough, people try to hang on to their cash. They are going to test their creditors just a little bit. They're not going to stiff them. That's dumb. But they're going to slow pay. They're going to be a little bit less eager to throw in that money right away. They're just going to stretch things out. And everybody knows full well which companies really can't complain. I mean, this is the challenge of the credit manager. It'd be easy enough if they just simply said, hey, you're late, I'm going to dun you. But if you've got somebody who's your biggest customer, who's a little behind, you're going to be like, I really wish you'd pay up, but I'm not going to make an issue out of it because you're my freaking biggest customer. I don't want to lose you. When you start to see these people catching up, and now there's less slow pay, now there are fewer disputes, and now there are fewer dollars exposed, and now there are fewer accounts out for collection. What that tells us in the past is that those people are getting ready to ask for more money. And that's kind of what's reflected here. If you're going to be buying new equipment, looking for credit, it's a whole lot easier to look for credit from a company that you're current with than one that you still owe. So you catch up. The second trend that we're seeing is a whole lot more credit application activity. For almost a year, almost every month, credit app numbers went down. There just weren't a lot of people applying for credit, and the people who were applying for credit weren't necessarily getting it because it was kind of desperate moves. It's like, I'm going out of business. Can I borrow money? No. It's like, you're going out of business. Now what's happening is the good customers are starting to come back and ask for credit. Not necessarily right away either. They're sort of getting it prepared. Like, I'm not going to do this now, but I may do it in February or March, and I want to make sure that I've got this credit in place so that when I decide to make the move, I can make the move. Those two factors generally begin to bolster growth, and we've seen it 3 or 4 times in the past 10 or so years that we've done this index. Sort of the last overarching commentary is the political one, and it's going to be an interesting 4 years because we now have a little less uncertainty when it comes to things like the Affordable Health Care Act and the Bank Reform Act. We know they're not going to be changed. Now the part that is uncertain is what they actually look like when they're finished. The Bank Reform Act is still only 60% implemented, so we don't quite know yet how that's going to play out. The SEC, for example, finally gave up. They used to keep saying, we're going to be done in March, we're going to be done in June, we're going to be done in November. Their last statement was, we have no idea when we're going to be done. It could be years. But the things that are still creating uncertainty is we don't really know what kind of government we're going to get in the next 4 years. There are 3 things to be aware of in a second-term presidency. Number 1, it goes lame duck after 2 years. So the last 2 years of a president's second term is about the most powerless they ever are, because now their party is going after him. I mean, this guy isn't up for re-election again. So now it's going to be who is going to be the standard bearer. And if there is any hint of unpopularity with the sitting president, his own party begins to run away from him because they're preparing their own campaign. We now know that campaigns last, on average, 6,000 years. And so we're going to be seeing, discussions around 2016 right away, and we're going to see discussions around the presidential election right away. So that's one factor. The second factor is second-term presidents begin to start thinking a lot about legacy, and they're not running anymore. So traditionally, they tend to drift back towards the center because now they're trying to get things done. And you don't get things done in a highly partisan atmosphere. So if you pursue the same kinds of policies you pursued as a first-termer, nothing moves, and your legacy is awful. Historians kind of write you off as a do-nothing president that wasted his term. So you're likely to see Obama shifting a little bit more to the right, more than we thought he would. And then third is you get a pretty significant changing of the guard at the executive level. And this is going to be something we'll watch pretty closely in the next few months, because who ends up in these positions will tell you a lot about where the policy orientations are going to be. There'll be a new defense secretary, a new secretary of state. There's going to be new people at commerce. There'll be new people at labor. But one to really pay attention to is the secretary of the treasury. Right now, that's Tim Geithner. Tim Geithner is retiring, and he's going to be never going to Washington again. Tim Geithner is really looking forward to living on an isolated island and growing a beard. But the person likely to replace him, it's sort of 2 candidates' names that have come up. Jack Lew, who is currently the chief of staff and kind of a good, solid, middle-of-the-road bureaucrat loyal to Obama. The interesting name is Erskine Bowles of the Simpson-Bowles amendment, or not amendment, plan. So I wish it was an amendment. Anyway, Erskine Bowles would be a really interesting choice for Treasury because he has been a critic of the Obama White House for the last several years, saying, we came up with a plan, you charged us with coming up with a plan, we came up with a plan, why are you ignoring it? Why are you pretending that you can do this without doing what we're recommending? And put him in as Treasury Secretary, and you get an instant response from the business community that debt and deficit is now going to be taken seriously. Personally, I just want all this to come back because I really miss Alan Simpson. He is the most colorful of former senators. If you remember when he was in the Senate, senator from Wyoming, you could just, on any given day, count on a statement that was colorful and made no apparent sense. And one of my favorite was, be careful that you don't bite off something with your alligator mouth that your hummingbird ass can't cover. That took like days to figure out, and it's just kind of like, it just sounded really profound. But it's like, his latest one, someone asked him about the deficit and the conversations and all this. It makes about as much difference as a canary fart. So it's like, I want Alan Simpson back in the public eye sooner than later.